Hello, welcome back to Peanuts and a Podcast. This is the second episode. The first episode has so far done pretty well comparatively to most of our videos, which I'm very happy with. Hopefully it is enjoyable. I hope it's not just random ramblings like when I usually talk. But I have two other people with me here, Hunter and Micah. Say hello.
Hello.
Again.
No, that's fine. So they will keep me in check and keep me from rambling too much, and they'll have another opinion to say.
Are you still talking?
See? Perfect. That's why they're here.
Hey, shut up. Alright.
Alrighty. I have some Dang, I'm coughing now. The power of mute buttons. Let's see. I have 5 different topics. I was talking with Mike a little bit about paradoxes, which I think will be fun. I also have dashcam videos. We have Noah leaving the internet.
Yeah, that's a thing.
And then 2 others slightly less interesting. Those are my 3 most interesting. What kind of stuff do you guys have to talk about? And we'll vote on it.
I have this cool little whistle that I have now every time that I tell a really funny joke.
That sounds exactly what Call Me Carson did for his channel. He got like this whistle, I think it's called a slide whistle that he was using for jokes in the exact same way.
I've had it forever and I found it in my closet. I'm like, hey, I could use that for some jokes.
Okay, is that all you've got?
Yep.
What about you, Hunter?
I am a fountain of information.
I have literally nothing. The only thing I could possibly talk about was the new information on Kappa that you linked to earlier, I think.
New information, which is basically that Kappa themselves recognize that there is middle ground, and YouTube is ignoring that and going with the either kid-friendly or not kid-friendly and no middle
You
ground,
idiots.
which they shouldn't be. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Idiots. So yeah, that was pretty much the only thing I had.
And that's very simple. The only thing I'll add to that, because there's not much to talk about, the only thing I will add is that the most positive I can think about this, and the most that I can give to YouTube, is that this is temporary. This is something, they had to do something as soon as they could, and so they have these 2 categories, and they're going to work and spend more time on figuring out how to define the third middle ground category. And they just can't do that yet, because it is very gray, and it's very hard to tell the difference, especially using their machine learning like they're talking about. And honestly, I don't want them to use machine learning. They want to, and they're going to try to, so that's probably going to take time. But even doing it manual is still not a good solution anyways for that middle ground problem. And so that's the best I can give them, is that they're still working on it, and this is temporary.
Aw, look at you and your optimism.
That's the word I was looking for, optimism. Now, let's see. We have the 3 topics I have, which is Noah leaving the internet, dashcam videos, and paradoxes. Paradoxes is fun. Dashcam videos is watching videos, which in the last video, it honestly didn't turn out as great because we were talking a little less, and I had to do more editing to cut out silent parts. But I think we're going to refrain from just watching videos, and at most, I might try to find specific clips, but it's going to be difficult since it's been so long.
Right.
So we're gonna save that for last. We're gonna talk about some more interesting stuff, which would be paradoxes of Noah leaving the internet. And honestly, I think we should talk about Noah leaving the internet, because that is very recent and very interesting. Wouldn't you agree?
And a very large topic that needs to be discussed.
Very large topic that affects us all.
We do want to make sure that Noah, he already tweeted about this, and he could have gone into more detail, but he didn't, and there may be a reason. So we don't want to just talk about this too much, and I will have to send this to Noah and double check it with him to make sure he's fine with everything we talk about.
Right.
But we can talk about a few things.
The thing is, he's still more specific than YouTube's guidelines, so...
You already made that joke.
I already made a joke, but I've never made it on recording, so...
It is a very good joke, I will say that. I'm gonna move my mic a little farther. I'm getting some very loud peaking and stuff, I think. Hopefully that's not too quiet now.
You're fine.
Okay. So let's see.
If Noah was here, he'd make a joke and then just scream into the mic and say, "Is this loud enough for you?" And then you'd probably say something like, "I could hear that on my Audacity recording."
And that is why, for the most part, I support his decision to take a break from the internet, because then we don't have to deal with them. On the negative side, then we also don't get the fun part of Noah being on the internet. All right, so let's look at his tweet and see what he says exactly, and I will link this in the description. I almost forgot to link the videos we talked about in the last video in the description of the podcast, but I remembered today and added those.
How dare you?
He says, "Hey guys, it's a little sudden, but I'm considering taking a hiatus from YouTube and just from the internet in general for a while. There's actually many reasons I'll be off for a bit, and this is all my own decision. Most of it involves my education, which we have learned a little bit more about that. We're not going to go into too much detail. One of the many reasons is COPPA, which is understandable.
Very
I think
understandable.
He's going to wait for this to go over, blow over, maybe for the people to get things changed, to get things fixed, and so he's not going to have an issue with that. But truly, there's no main reason. It involves a million other things. One of the other things I'll be taking a break from is Discord. This includes taking a break from talking to lots of the friends I have on Discord, including most of my IRL friends. I'll be going into more detail in a video I'm releasing soon. So he is going in more detail, but we're going to let him do that mostly in a video. And we could even, we might also, I'll just wait to upload this video until after he's uploaded his, just to be safe.
That sounds
now,
good.
let's see. He didn't respond to many of the comments as far as I can... No, he didn't respond to any of the comments on this tweet so far. Probably most of them is just because it's either them saying, do what you need to do, or just being like, the definition of hiatus is, noun, a pause or gap in a sequence, series, or process. There was a brief hiatus in the war with France.
Why on earth would you do that?
Credit
That's
to
a waste of
Purple's...
time.
Credit to Purple Scorpion Venom 00 or at SVenom 00, whatever, who posted that amazing, well thought out tweet that was not just copy paste from Google.
It
Totally.
was copy pasted from Wikipedia.
So, based off of what he said here, I'm hoping he's going to go into more specifics in the video, and I haven't gotten the chance to talk to him about it too much. But one thing I've mentioned to you guys is that I would like for him to be a little more specific, not just for us, so we can understand what's going to happen, but also for, himself and, everyone else who watches his videos and stuff like that. And mainly just on the amount of time. And this is the one thing. I think he should set a time so that it's not just like as long as I can go. Because if you set like a time for like 2 years of no internet, right? Maybe one weekend you're going to be like, ooh, this is really difficult. I think I changed my mind. I'm going to put it down to 1 year, right? And you allow yourself to change it.
Right.
Month
Makes
goes
sense.
by or something, and it's like, oh, I don't know if I can even last a year. I'm going to change it down to 6 months. And it slowly might get lower and lower. I don't know how low it could end up getting or how low he could go with it, but it's not Limbo. And so that's the issue I see, and that's something with his own, like, how he's going to deal with himself. I think he should start with a smaller goal, like a month, and if he goes through a week, it's like, oof, this is tough. Like, he could start with a month and plan, like, I'm going to try to, start with 1 month, and I'm going to continue on to 2 months if I feel like I need to. Then when he gets through 1 week, he's like, ooh, this is tough. At least I only have 3 more weeks to go. At the end of those 3 weeks, he's made it a month. And if he's like, you know what? I think I can go longer, then he'll extend it. And the most that could happen is it just gets extended, but he's not going to allow himself to shorten the time. And so otherwise it'll just be like after a week he gives up or whatever, which I feel like could happen.
I feel like that it's possible that he'll see us playing like Golf It or Overwatch every other night or something,
Want to come join us.
and then he'll want to join us, mostly because Overwatch is still going to be doing events and stuff and skins. He almost missed getting the new Mercy skins, and I know he likes playing Mercy, so...
Well, I think this is something I have actually thought about, is like, what if I just took a break from technology altogether, right? And I've done this in like small breaks. Like I went to a camp and we had no phones or anything like that, and we literally didn't even have air conditioning for the most part. We had like a porta potty, and it was fun. I loved it, and it was for like a week. And I didn't miss my phone the whole time, but there were planned activities and stuff on my own when I'm all bored and I don't have anything to do. I wouldn't be able to last. So there's been times like that where I'm basically just when I'm camping that I don't have technology, and it does feel good. And I've thought about trying to do that at home and not spend so much time on technology, or at least limit it. And I think it's great that he wants to do this.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Things in excess are always bad. You need to have some moderation, for sure.
Yes.
Yep.
And so that's fine, but I would like to know about how far he's going, because I'm very selfish and I want him to be friends with me, because otherwise I will only have 2 other friends. That
I one
sounds so
of them?
bad. That sounds so sad. Actually, no, it's Hunter and this other guy who lives on the moon.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
Micah.
Oh,
His name is
dang it.
Pumpkinhead. He lives on the moon. Yeah, I see him every
Stinking
night.
Pumpkinhead.
That's secretly why I get off at 10:30 is to go hang out with him on the moon.
It makes sense.
So I mean, I do hope he sticks around a little more than just literally no technology, no internet, just unplugs it and doesn't use it at all. I do hope he sticks around a little bit, but he's not obsessed with it. He's not worrying about his YouTube channel, or he's on Twitter all the time, or watches tons of YouTube videos, because that can be unhealthy, and I think that's what he's trying to get rid of. I
Right,
do
right.
hope he'll stay on Discord. And I feel like most likely at this point that's not his plan, because he gets on Discord and he might get he's got 100 pings, and he's got his Discord to worry about, his Discord server and other things like that, which will have pings and messages, and he'll want to check up on him. And I feel like this is what I want to suggest to him when I talk to him next. I feel like the solution for that is to make another Discord account, which will only have maybe us, and he could be in this group chat if he wants to, and he could even mute everything, and he will only see messages when he chooses to get online. He will not receive any pings or messages from Discord, specifically his Discord servers, and it'll only be some of the closest friends like us, his IRL friends, which he talks about, that he could
Mhm.
stay in contact with without us having to text him. He could look at Micah's memes, or I don't know if he's planning on playing video games. From what I've heard, he's not going to be playing much
From what I
at
can
all.
tell, when I talk to him, I feel like it's going to be more of if it's on the weekend and he's available, he can come and join us for a few things.
That's sort of what I was hoping, and I was
Yeah.
and hoping he wasn't gonna just completely cut off everything with most of the friends that he talks to online.
And with Christmas
And-
break coming up within the next month, I will have a lot more free time to hang out. So that works
Mhm.
out too.
So hopefully, I'm gonna guess that he's still gonna be online some, so that we could talk to him every now and then.
Right.
The one thing I will say is that I was texting him, and one of the things he said is that he needs to take a break from gaming, because he spends so much time playing games with us. And I just sort of thought, wait, you do?
Who are you again?
Yeah. Who are you again? Because I've been in another state for most of this semester, and
And you've
Honestly,
seen Noah
he-
more than I have.
yeah,
Mhm,
I've seen him more than you guys have, and I haven't seen him that much.
mhm. I will say it is partially because of his job and things like that, which he doesn't get back until late.
Right,
Um,
and that's understandable because by the time that he gets off of work, we've already gone to bed. Or
Yes.
you're getting ready to bed.
And I
And-
typically don't finish my homework till late in the evening anyway.
I think what he's talking about is whenever he has free time, we're always like, hey, you're free, you should be able to hang out with us. And so then he feels like he needs to hang out with his friends instead of looking
Relaxing.
into what he really wants to do for his job, because he works at KFC. I don't think he plans to work at KFC for forever. He doesn't have time to do that because he's playing with us. He doesn't have time to look into education like he's talked about in his tweet, or he doesn't have time to work on his own YouTube channel, because we always bug him about editing all the time, which he probably doesn't as much as we think.
He probably does do it a lot more than we think. But the thing is, if he
What?
wants us to,
I said he does it less than we think.
oh, does it less? You
Yes.
said do it less. Okay, I misheard. Anyway, on that note, I think he just puts himself in these positions where he has to edit more, because he was one of the primary creators of the Peanut Gallery, after all.
hmm And he did say he's going to keep doing that, which is a bit of a relief, because as soon as I heard this, my thought was, well, Peanut Gallery is going to be officially dead, except for these podcasts, which, they're podcasts, which I can't upload as frequently because of my internet and other issues.
Yep, months
So-
of pre-recording down the drain.
No, he said he's gonna keep editing, and
Yeah, I know.
he's gonna lower the quality a little bit for some of the things in there, which I have told him he should do because some of the things he's spending too much time on, which he doesn't need to, and he's gonna lower some of the quality as much as he can while still making it bearable to watch and enjoy. And he's going to just keep editing.
In regards
But-
to editing, he's kind of a perfectionist.
And I'm a perfectionist too, but I have kind of learned that if I want something to be perfect, it takes time, and if there's a time limit on something, I get a rough draft, and I get it to where I'm happy with it. It's not perfect, but I'm happy enough with it. I can put it out there, and I can update as I go if I feel like I need to.
Yeah,
'Cause
I don't have
otherwise,
a
you'll just
single.
spend forever
Yeah.
looking at every possible thing that could happen, which is good in some cases, but in this, like with YouTube and uploading videos, it's not.
Right.
Right. Because I don't have a single perfect video in my library, but I have videos I'm happy with, and that's what I like.
There's a lot of the videos that I'm most proud of are ones which aren't perfect at all. They're laggy and stuff, which I hate, and there's some things where I feel like I wish I had edited it differently, but I put in enough time that it was good enough so that for the most part you don't notice things, and in general it's a good, entertaining video. The minor details that are wrong I don't worry about, and I can fix like any typos or change a thumbnail if I feel like I could do better. But for the most part, just get it to where it's good enough. And I'm not going to rewatch every video, the whole like 15-30 minutes long, and like see, oh, there's one slight issue wrong. I've got to re-edit like this whole part, reprocess, and everything like that. So, you know.
No, you rarely ever rewatch a video after you publish it, because you've spent like
No, I
a
watched
lot-
my videos over and over again whenever I upload them. Most of
Well,
the time
I've-
it's because... Well, go ahead.
I end up watching my videos like 20 times in the entire editing process, especially with Ace, considering how much work has to go into that.
Oh, yeah.
So I personally, maybe I'll rewatch a video after it's been out for a month or two, but I don't rewatch it the instant I upload it, because I don't want to artificially add to my own watch count.
Well, I mean, you
By
can
one.
only add like
By one. Yeah.
You can only add one because YouTube, the YouTube doesn't allow that. But I do rewatch my videos like immediately after I upload them. But that's mostly because since I'm such a perfectionist, the only videos I upload are either necessary, which those I don't watch over again, or they're ones I'm proud of, and I enjoyed them and I enjoyed making them or whatever, and I feel like they're good videos, and those I enjoy rewatching even after spending hours rewatching it to edit. If I go to my YouTube channel, I might be able to find a couple specific videos. I think mainly like some of the ones that I was proud of was like that Floaty logo revamping. I was pretty proud of that, and I liked watching the time lapse over. I like to show videos to people, and so I'll rewatch videos with people, and I enjoy that. But let's see, where's a video?
What about you, Micah? What is your editing experience?
Yeah, like let's see, some of my more recent ones, The Hunt for the Spanish Chair, the little trailer I made. I absolutely loved that video. I loved how
I
it
like
turned
that
out,
one
and
too.
I watched that videos back so many times because I was so proud of it. The video called The Answer, it's a little bit longer, and I don't think I watch it as many times. I think I rewatched it once or twice on YouTube, but it was also mainly because I was showing other people my video, specifically my sister, from what I remember. The video before that, My Biggest Secret, I'm pretty sure I rewatched that a few times because I was pretty happy with how that turned out. The video before that, where I said I was quitting like gaming videos in general just because it wasn't as enjoyable to edit for me or record, and I couldn't record it in the quality I wanted to. I do not watch that over again like at all, just because that was a necessary video. I did as little editing as I could so I wouldn't look at it for too long, see how weird I talk and how my mouth moves, because I'm self-conscious about that for whatever reason, which is why it's hard for me to do face cam videos. And so I do not watch that over because it's not something I'm proud of, it's something that was necessary. So those are some examples.
Yeah.
But there are most of my videos, a lot of my videos, I am fairly proud of or were necessary. And I can put them into each of those categories exactly. Well, except for a few exceptions, which were, well, I mean, they were somewhat necessary, but not extremely. I don't know. There's a few slight exceptions, but for the most part,
Right.
that's how my videos are.
All right. What about you, Micah? What's your tales from editing and rewatching your own videos?
I don't like to edit my own videos. And once I start editing, I'm like, yeah, I like this because then I can do whatever I want and make people laugh. But I really don't want to start this. Once I'm doing it, I like it. But once I have to start it, I do not like to start it.
Because honestly, your videos are very high quality. Like, honestly.
Yeah, I just gotta be pushed over the edge to start editing. I'm more of a stream personality, I think, where I can just say whatever I want and then not have to go back and say, this could use some improvement with visuals, and then stuff goes flying around.
What's frustrating for me is I would love to stream, but I'm limited by my computer and my internet, and also not to mention that I take a lot of editing to make my content bearable to watch.
Mhm.
And that's something I've tried to work on, is to not ramble as much, and also at the same time somehow to talk more and not have so many silent pauses. And it's not super easy, especially when I'm just by myself. Which is why, for the most part, I can't do that without heavy editing. But I hate editing.
My issue is when I'm by myself, I have to find a reason to talk because I don't really talk that much on my own. I need to have somebody else to pair it off of.
Yeah. And that's why I think a lot of YouTubers, like especially Noah, are people who can talk a lot. And I feel like also people who can like somehow see their audience and imagine their audience listening to them. Where when I talk to myself for recording a video, it feels like I'm talking to myself. And especially when I first started, it felt extremely dumb and embarrassing. Which is why my very first video, which I ever uploaded, was recorded in my bathroom.
Wait, really?
Yes.
There's
Really?
some mysterious goofball trivia that nobody knew before.
I feel like I've mentioned it before.
You know,
Either
I
to you
can see
guys. I
that.
don't know about it on video. But yeah, it's true. I don't think you'll be able to find it on my channel, because another piece of trivia, there is a second channel that I have, and I'm not going to say what it is in case you don't know what it is, because it's a very small secret, but it is somewhat of a secret. That I haven't just, announced on YouTube very much. Well, actually, no, I have. Okay, never mind. I've already talked about it. It's my Spanish chair account, which is my second account. It's actually like my it's an account that I used to upload on, and I put like maybe 4 or 5 videos on there. And the very first one is the one that's recorded in my bathroom. Maybe even a few after that I did. I think everywhere where I talked in the first 1, maybe 2 or 3 videos on that channel, which have all been privatized just because it's Spanish chair branding now. Those are all recorded in my bathroom. I forgot what I was saying there for a second. But the reason why I decided to change it is because I wanted to have a completely new channel because I had some personal stuff using like the email and the account with my old channel, and I wanted to separate like my personal stuff with my YouTube sort of hobby, career, whatever you can call it, just so that there wouldn't be any mixtures or any private information getting out. Like if I was like, I liked a video from a family member or anything like that, then someone could somehow find a video I liked or anything like that and be like, oh, this might be their family member because they're in the background, or they mentioned someone's same name, or who knows what. And so I've always tried to keep my private life and YouTube separate for those kinds of reasons.
Well, that makes
so
sense.
that's why
I
I
have
made
a
a new
personal account along with my
Yes.
primary YouTube.
And I know of your personal.
And I have a personal life.
Oh,
Man, I really got to get one of those.
I know, right?
I know,
Where
right?
do I
They're
s-
so convenient.
Where do I sign up for that? What website is it?
It's www.getalife.com.
Okay.
I need to visit there real soon.
Well, that's the end of that.
That's the end of that conversation.
That's the segue noise. All right,
That was
now on to the
fun.
next topic. Now, I also have written down dashcam videos and paradoxes, and I feel like paradoxes sound more fun.
That's Micah's expertise.
Don't we
That's
want
what
to
he
end off
said
on
himself.
a good topic, though?
End off on a good topic.
So then
Well,
we have more view time.
Well, we've been recording for about 30 minutes, subtracting like maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning where we were just talking about how to start it and doing synchronization and other stuff. And so with that cut out, it's been at least 20 minutes. So this might be the last topic. Should we do dashcam videos and end on a good note? I'm not sure. Let's take a vote. I will say, I'm gonna go with dashcam videos, and we'll try to end on a good note.
Me too.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, there's the vote. Alrighty, dashcam videos. So now, dashcam videos was a big interest of mine a long time ago. I watched tons and tons of videos on them and found them extremely interesting. And they sort of fueled that part of you where it's like this righteous rage kind of thing, you know? Like just getting mad at people who are very clearly stupid.
Yep.
That just gives you the best feeling, but also at the same time it's kind of a worse feeling, which is why I sort of tried to stop watching them. Is because I kind of felt bad. You know, it wasn't like a very healthy feeling, and wasn't something
It's like,
I didn't really
you
feel
know
like
the
watching.
people on the road with you are idiots. This is only proof.
Well, for the most part, yes. What I kind of find funny is my dad road rages, and he'll call people idiots all the time on the roads. Like, look at this idiot just cutting across without putting on a signal and speeding and stuff. But whenever I see that happening, usually I'm trying to pay attention to the people acting stupid. And like if someone's gonna cut in front of me, I'll just let them in. I'm not gonna try to block them off and have them hit me. I just have enough space in front of me where some rude person can get in, and I'll be a little upset, but I won't usually say a whole lot for the most part. But every time I do see someone who is extremely stupid, like someone who's speeding extremely fast or being really dumb or like cuts off a car in front of me or who knows what, I don't call them idiots. I call them people, because that's basically the same thing. So that's just a little funny thing with me, is I just say, people, are you serious? And that's basically what I say.
You are a person.
Yes. Now, I don't know if I can find specific videos, so I don't think I'm going to try unless I really think I can find them. But I will tell a few stories of some of the craziest and stupidest people I have seen in dashcam videos. I can think of, I think, 3. I forgot one of them already.
We're off to a great start.
Well, I can think of 2. Maybe I'll remember the third one. The first one that I'm gonna talk about is where this guy, like, it's got a dash cam recording them behind a car getting on like a ramp or getting ready to merge onto a highway, and the car in front of them is going fairly slow, and whatever. The person behind them is just waiting for them to speed up, or they're going to go around when they get a chance when they get onto the highway, because they're in a 1-lane road ramp getting onto the highway, right?
Makes sense.
And so he's just doing that, and all of a sudden the guy in front of him just slams on their brakes. I remember the third one I was thinking of, by the way. The guy in front of him just sort of slams on their brakes and gets out of the car, and they are furious. And you want to know why they're furious?
Let me guess.
Why are they furious?
Let's take a vote. Welcome to the game show to see who can answer this random question correctly. Hunter, what was your guess?
The person in front driving slow thinks the person behind was tailgating.
Okay, Micah, what is your guess?
The person was just stupid, and they did it anyway.
You are both half correct.
Yes, they were
The
stupid.
person,
Yay.
the person was furious because the person behind them wouldn't pass them. They wouldn't go around them. They
What?
wanted them to pass them on a 1-lane road ramp getting onto the highway. That's why they got mad.
So they stopped traffic in that
Mhm.
1-lane highway because their own idiosyncrasies weren't met.
Yes, they felt like the person behind them was tailgating and wanted to go faster, and so I think they may have slowed down more. And I don't know if they were using hand signals that the person couldn't see. You can't see anything from the dash cam point of view. You don't see any motions or signals or anything to suggest that they wanted this person to go around. They just stopped their car, got out, went up to the window of this guy, and was like banging on it and yelled at them like, swearing at him like, you should just go around me. I wanted you to go around me. And that's what they were mad about. And that's why they stopped traffic. And they got dash cam footage of it. And that's one of my favorite videos that I've ever watched. And it's so hard to be honest, it's so hard to find those types of videos because they're in a long list of long compilations of just generic accidents happening, or just people being stupid, but not that level of stupid, and everything like that. The other two extreme stories I have involve, what is it called? Brake testing, which is the stupidest thing anyone can do. Yeah. And what I thought brake testing is basically get off my tail. But what I have learned is some people do brake testing as insurance fraud.
Yeah. I've heard this. It's ridiculous.
One story or one thing I've seen is, as far as I can tell, based on the perspective and the sounds and everything about the dashcam video, this is a semi-truck. They have a giant trailer on the back, the 8-wheelers, whatever you call them. I call
18-wheelers.
18-wheelers, that's what it is. It's a big truck, right? It's heavy. And this little Prius-sized car
good Lord.
Goes in front of them and brake tests. Slams on their brakes. It absolutely demolishes their car, and the truck driver slams on the brakes, and it still takes 10 to 15 seconds to stop because it's such a big truck. And the person gets out of their tiny car that either they were stupid and brake test this giant car because they were frustrated at them for going too slow, taking up the road, who knows what, and they just destroyed their own car. And they get out. And they don't seem mad. As far as I remember, they weren't super mad. They just get out and they stare at their car. And just look at it. This crumpled up back end of a car.
The question is, how did they survive? Because think about this. These 18-wheelers are huge. They weigh an absolute ton. Well, more than that. And the smaller the car, the more likely it is to get crushed because these things take forever to stop.
Yes, but the thing is that they didn't stop 100 feet in front and then the truck ran into them full speed. They went up. They were fairly close in front of them. They swerved up and basically cut them off and slammed on their brakes. And so they didn't come to a full stop before the truck hit them necessarily. So it didn't they weren't just sitting on the road and the truck hit them. They were going some speed. They just slowed down extremely fast, which, crushed their car.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that completely.
Fine. It's understandable that you survived. And if I could find the video, which I don't think I ever will again, then I could show you. But sadly, I can't find them. And they will not be linked in the description because I'm not even going to try to find them. But that's that story. And I've seen one other, which is the same thing of brake testing. And this time, this was on an exit ramp off of the highway.
Oh.
It was a van, and it was insurance fraud. Now, here's the thing. This one had more audio that you could hear. And the person driving it was driving along. I don't know what they were driving. It could have been, I think it was a fairly big truck. I don't know if it was an 18-wheeler semi-truck.
Could have just been a pickup truck.
It could have been a big diesel pickup truck. Who knows? But this old van in front of them, it's not like a minivan. It's just a regular van in front of them. Brakes test them. I'm pretty sure it was insurance fraud. And the guy slams in the back, and you can hear him cursing. It's like, you stupid beep. And then before he can even really finish, someone else behind him slams into the back of him and makes even more of a mess. That's the biggest thing. And probably the car behind them could have been an even bigger car. Who knows? It could have been. Who knows? I don't know because you can't see behind. for this video specifically. But this idiot of a person wanted to get money, so they wrecked their car, made it look like the person behind them's fault by making it a rear end accident, which whoever rear ended the person is usually at fault, unless proven otherwise, specifically with dash cams, which is why at some point I need to get my own. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
This actually, like, I've told you all this story before, but when I first started driving, this little girl cut in front of me and like totaled the van I was driving, and we didn't have a dash cam at that time either. It led to
Totally
this,
something a little girl would do.
totally something a little girl would do, and this led to a whole like 2 years of court stuff and lawsuits and stuff that finally ended over the summer. So yeah, no, get a dash cam.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because it gives you almost definite proof of whose fault it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mom got in a little bit of an accident, which ended up totaling our van, but she was fine. Where she was in a left turn lane, and it was dark. It was at night, and I think she had a yellow arrow. It was green, and it was turning yellow as she was pulling through. And as she turned left, she doesn't remember it very clearly, which makes it more difficult. And the other person is obviously saying that they weren't at fault. And there was another witness who says, which kind of confirms what my mom was thinking happened, which is she had the right to go. The other person had a red light because they had a yellow arrow. It didn't go away yet. It wasn't red or whatever.
Right.
So she still had the right to go. It couldn't have been green at all. And what they think the other person was doing was not only speeding, but speeding over a little bit of a hill that's fairly difficult to see over even in the day. You got to be careful with it. With their headlights off.
Oof.
Is what this other witness, I think, is what they said. And that's sort of what my mom theorized about what happening. And so it totaled the car. The car slid a little ways. The right side, not the driver's side, the passenger side, ended up getting dented up really badly. And I think it broke some windows and stuff. Airbags deployed, and the car almost tipped over, but luckily it didn't, and it stayed on all four wheels, and it freaked her out. And she had to get back up, used to driving again, and she's nervous going through that light and extremely careful.
Well,
so yeah,
considering all of that, I wouldn't blame your mom for forgetting bits and pieces of
but
that.
if we had dash cams, it would have been more definite proof, because I'm pretty sure. I don't think they put my mom as the person at fault. I'm not 100% sure. They may have, because they don't have any proof otherwise. Because you're turning left. It's not like you're going straight and someone runs a red line and runs into you. If you're turning left, it's a little iffy, because if you had if it was green and you didn't see anyone, like if they had their headlights off, that's one issue. So you didn't see them, so you thought it was clear to go, which makes it legal. But it wasn't clear because they weren't visible without their headlights. Or, even with the green arrow, it's iffy because that's only something you can see with any sort of camera, like a dash cam or security camera.
Right.
If she had a dash cam, it may have made it way more clear and way simpler. But yeah, that happened. And there's so many cases where dash cams, especially in other countries where insurance fraud is a huge issue, where it's extremely useful. And that's the next genre of dash cam videos, which is what Hunter keeps referring to as Russian dash cams, which some of them are car accidents because people are just stupid drivers. But most of what I think of when I hear of like Russian dash cams is the completely stupid insurance fraud videos, which is where someone is driving down an alleyway and some random old lady, maybe not old, who knows, could even be a kid, runs up and like puts their hand on the car and then falls over dramatically on the ground. It's like, oh, he hit me.
Yeah.
He hit me.
I've seen those, yeah.
And I think I even see like one guy who was so dedicated. He jumped on the car, slammed his head on the windshield about 3 times. I think may have cracked a little bit or dented it or did something to the windshield, if I remember right. And then falls on the ground. So he had like physical trauma. There's a crack on the windshield, and it was more proof. But they had dash cams because it's pretty much a necessary thing. Like I'm pretty sure in like Russia and those countries, they come installed in the cars. I don't know if that's true. That's just the theory.
Idiots.
Yes, and
idiots.
Those are hilarious to watch. There was one lady who was so dedicated that a car drove up. They laid down in front of the car. They didn't like slam on the front of the car or anything. They just laid down in front of it, and the car just simply backed up and was going to go around. And the lady got up and walked over to like where they're trying to go around and laid down in front of it again. And they just kept backing up and trying to go around so many times, and eventually they got past them. But yeah.
Jeez. The crazy stuff people do. I mean, come on.
This will be the last thing I talk about for this topic, just because I know I'm the main one talking since this is my topic. But one of the other most interesting insurance fraud videos I've seen is a lady in probably a minivan, from what I can tell from the dash cam, is driving up a road behind a motorcyclist. And they get to like, I think a stop sign or something like that, and the motorcyclist gets off his bike and rams it backwards into the front of this lady's car. And then I think he like falls over dramatically. She gets out of the car and she's like, "What are you doing? Are you okay?" And like doesn't really understand. And then he's like, "You hit me! You hit me!" And she's like, "No, I didn't. You clearly did that on your own." And then some random guy off the street who was all a part of it came and was like, "No, I saw it. You hit him. I am a witness. I give testimony that you hit him, and it is your fault." And then she starts to call the police, and like she's talking to him, and she points at like the windshield of the car and that dash cam. And as soon
I just remember
as she mentions, no, she's like, "No, I have dash cam. I have proof." They freak out. The guy runs off. The guy gets on his motorcycle and runs away as she's calling the police. And it is hilarious. It is the best. Because they go from, like, this terrible acting of, "Oh, I'm in such pain. My back," to, "Oh, I'm completely healthy and I'm getting out of here." And so, most likely, even after they left, they could have, if he had an insurance license plate, they could ID like the guy on the side of the road, or maybe even like the motorcycle or anything like that, and they could probably catch this guy. So he got really unlucky.
Oh yeah.
I've seen some stupid videos and they were entertaining, but I will say over time they got very it kind of made me feel bad. I didn't feel very good watching the videos anymore, probably partially because I had such little faith in humanity at that point. And I just felt bad, like, why is the world so messed up? This is depressing. And so I decided to stop watching. That's the thing with my YouTube binging habits, how I go from one topic to another. I just watch random recommended videos. Sometimes I'll rewatch, like, YouTube's channels and just binge them. Like, recently I've been watching some Vsauce videos today. Every now and then I watch, like, a couple, like, comedy, like funny moments gaming channels, and I'll rewatch some of the old videos, and especially when they don't upload very often and it's not a whole lot to watch, and I'll just watch a bunch of random one of those that I remember liking. And so yeah, I'll just watch a bunch of a person's YouTube channels, and sometimes it gets to the point where I've watched so many, that's all I get recommended for, and I don't feel like watching those videos anymore. And so what I do is I go to my history and I clear history and I have a fresh start. But I haven't done that in a while. So far, it's been pretty good with recommended. I'm not tired of it so far. And I'm just watching random recommended videos. So yeah, and I enjoy it. I suggest that.
Cool.
Alright, transition sound effect.
Transition.
We need to keep
such
that.
A great noise. Alrighty, paradoxes. Paradoxes are so interesting. I watched a Vsauce video, Vsauce 2 actually, which started off when I watched a video not from Vsauce, but I think it was called Ding or something like that. A Ding video, which has Vsauce, Michael from Vsauce 1, and, like, hosting it. I don't fully understand what the purpose of the channel is, but he recommended the parody thing because he was talking specifically about one of the paradoxes. Did I say parody?
You did say parody.
Paradox video from Vsauce 2. He was talking about a specific paradox from that video, so I went to watch the video to watch more on paradoxes because they are so fascinating. And I do not use the word fascinating very often, so it must be extremely fascinating. And he gave 3 examples of paradoxes, right? And I feel like Micah probably knows this. In fact, Micah, do you know 3 types of paradoxes?
Yes.
Cool. What are they?
All of them.
Cool.
None of them.
Okay.
And a few of them.
I think paradoxes are Micah's forte.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I just watched a video recently, so I know a little bit more about it. And this is sort of a specific thing, and I don't even remember the names. I just remember that there's 3 different types. One is
If I
sort
hear
of like...
the generic terms, I'll probably remember it, but at the moment, no, I can't.
Yes, I'm going to try to explain them as best as I remember. One is basically like it's a paradox that sounds wrong, but mathematically seems correct. Or at least for one example, which I think was originally called Hercules and the Turtle. If a turtle has a 100-meter head start and Hercules starts walking, even if he's faster than the turtle,
He'll never actually catch up.
when he gets to the point where the turtle was a while ago, the turtle has already moved from there. And so then he gets to where the turtle was then, the turtle has already moved from there. And so the fraction of distance that he has to go and, everything will get smaller and smaller, but he'll never actually reach the turtle. And mathematically, this almost seems to make sense until 2,000 years later, apparently, when calculus was invented or discovered, or who knows, whatever the word they use for it, was made, created, and they discovered how to explain it using fractions because, like 1/2 plus 1/4 plus 1/8 plus 1/16 plus 1/32 plus
Equals
1/68 plus 1/128 plus 1/236 plus so on. I don't know. That's as far as I can go. It will equal to 1. For infinity, those fractions going down will eventually equal to 1, which means that eventually you'll get to 1, you will catch up to the turtle or even pass the turtle, right?
Yep.
This sounds like one of those
In theory.
old word problem questions where you have to gauge the distance between 2 cars moving at the same speed.
Yes, kind of. And so that's sort of like something that sounds wrong, but mathematically seems like sort of correct, or like you have to discover the solution to how it is wrong.
So it's plausible.
Or maybe it sounds right but doesn't feel right, and you have to figure out how it isn't right, I think. I don't know if that's exactly how it's explained.
No
Then there's
left.
the next type. Yeah, the left. That's the correct answer. Left. Next type of paradox. I feel like I've been talking for most of this podcast.
You have been.
That's because I have a lot to talk about, and I have all the notes and things that we'll be talking about. But the next type of paradox is
Hello,
Poppers.
Poppers.
Here, come here. I'll pet you while I talk. Okay. The next type of paradox is one where, let's see, it sounds right, but mathematically it's a different way or something.
Right.
Left.
Like there, let's see, I can't remember what it's called, but it has to do with like the one I was watching specifically, which got me into all of this, is one to do with 3 doors, and if it's like a game
I know
show,
that one.
right? And 2 of the doors is nothing; it's garbage, trash stuff, and 1 of the doors is $1 million. And the game show host tells you to pick 1 of the 3 doors.
This
so you
sounds
pick
like
one
Let's
door.
Make a Deal.
Yes, exactly. That's where it came from. That's where this paradox originated from, and the chances of getting it. So at first, you have a 1 of 3 chance of getting the $1 million, right?
Mhm.
And so you pick a door. But then the game show host reveals one of the remaining 2 doors which has nothing in it. There's just nothing in it. So you now have a 50-50 chance, and you get a chance to either switch to the other door that hasn't been opened or stick with your original choice that you had, right?
Makes
So then it
sense.
seems like you now have a 50-50 chance of either getting the money or not getting the money, because the door that's been opened doesn't have money. So you know what's in there. And you still have a 50-50 chance of getting the money, right?
Yeah, that
But-
was the
Not true.
conclusion.
Because
Logically,
you-
you actually have 2/3 of a chance of getting the money if you switch to the door and not stick with your first choice. And that doesn't make sense, does it?
But it does.
Well, there's
It does.
3/3 in a hole, and if you count all the doors in a hole as a whole thing, then
Because technically, you're actually getting 2 doors for the price of 1 if you switch.
Basically, very very summed up. That's not the word I'm looking for.
Condensed.
Very condensed. That kind of works. That's basically how it works. It's basically because you pick a door, right? And that door, either you have a 1/3 chance of getting the door with $1 million, and then you have a 2/3 chance of getting the door without the $1 million. Now, the 2/3 chance is more likely. And if you get that 2/3 chance of not getting the $1 million on your first choice, then that means that when the host reveals one of the other 2 doors that you didn't choose, he will have to choose the door that doesn't have money in it. Which means the door that he didn't open has a chance of having the money in it. So if you switch, then you have a 2/3 chance of getting the money in it. Otherwise, you might get that 1/3 where you were right on your first time, and that will be less likely than the other. I can't explain it very well, but I will link the video in the description, and Micah understands it because he knows paradoxes.
Yeah.
And Hunter, we don't care if he understands it because I don't want to explain.
I just blow stuff up.
Yes. You just blow the paradox up.
I'll just blow up all the paradoxes.
We have this intricate problem that has stumped scientists for many millennia. Can you solve it? No, but I can blow it up.
I'll just blow up all 3 doors and we'll get the money and the garbage.
Exactly. Win-win.
All right.
Win.
The third type of paradox, though, is what most people consider when thinking about a paradox. Like, most things including
recurrence?
time travel. I don't know what it's called.
Recurrence.
It's like if you go back in time and kill your grandfather.
It's the grandfather paradox. I know this one.
Yes.
You go back in
Then-
time, if you kill your grandfather so you wouldn't be born, you're still born because you need to go back in time to kill your grandfather, basically.
Yes, and so it's a paradox. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem possible. But the thing with those type of paradoxes that I find so interesting is like a lot like the Hercules and the tortoise and other things like that. There is a solution, and it just
But to
took
these,
them
there is not.
2,000 years to those paradoxes. But what if this third category that we're talking about right now is those type of paradoxes, and in the future, someone will actually find the solution. There's something we don't know about. Maybe time travel somehow is real, which I doubt it is, and they can literally test it and find the solution. And then that paradox will be moved from this third category into that first category that we talked about. Right? Or into the second category, one of the other 2 categories, which is a unlikely possibility, something that doesn't make sense in your head, but it does make sense mathematically. And I honestly kind of feel like it could already make sense. My theory with the grandfather and those time-related paradoxes, and I just sort of sat after watching the video and just sort of thought about it on my own, and I'm sure other people have sort of thought about this. And obviously this can't be proven true because it's a theory and we can't test it scientifically because we don't have time travel or any way to test it. But my theory is that time is a line, right?
Yes.
When you time travel, that line goes and it circles back to a certain point and it moves around in the line in previous versions of that line. And if you were to change that line in the past, like killing your grandfather, that will cause basically a separate timeline where you don't exist, which means that you can't kill your grandfather, which will then circle back and you will actually be born again. And it's this infinite loop, and I sort of picture like the infinite symbol, like the figure 8 type thing for that sort of paradox, and that's how that works. As it just creates a separate timeline, and it just alternates every now and then between your grandfather being alive and you being born and going back in time to kill him, and then your grandfather being killed by you, and then you're never born, which means that you do the opposite. You don't have the action of killing your grandfather, which resets it into its original state.
You pretty much just described the entire plot of Back to the Future 2.
No, not really. Theirs seems to be a little... It's less clear. They don't... I mean, that's kind of how it works, is, the past affects the future, but with their logic, then, you never really get to see it, in the movies, and they don't like explain it unless they do in like special features or other people theorizing about it. And that might be how they say it works, but it's not necessarily clear, and that could be how it works.
Or maybe a
lots of-
closer example would be what the Avengers did in Endgame.
Theirs is a little different. Theirs is more of a branching timeline. And, different timelines will branch off into their own, which is a very common theory where every single decision you make branches off into separate timelines depending on what decision you make.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like why this kind of makes sense is that not doing something can have the same impact as doing something. For example, with the grandfather one, not being born and not going back in time to kill your grandfather has the same paradoxical effect as, going back and killing your grandfather. They're sort of they cause each other, but in the same way, not being born causes your grandfather to not die, right?
Right.
And so that's sort of one thing is most people think of you doing something, causing something, but also you not doing something has the same effect. One other thing I thought about, which is a little more complicated to think about, is the time traveler and like Beethoven paradox, which I think you know of, Micah.
There's many variations where people change things, but is it where you are in the present and then you take some of Beethoven's music and then you go back in time and say, "Here, Beethoven, have some music," and Beethoven claims it as his own?
Well, not so much that. It's basically that, but it's basically like a time traveler who absolutely loves Beethoven. This is how I've heard it, mainly in Doctor Who. They love Beethoven. So they can go back in time. They decide to go back in time and meet their idol, Beethoven, who wrote all this music that they love to listen to. They go back in time and find out he doesn't exist. He was never born. His parents never had any kids. And so what does he do? He doesn't want to live in a world where Beethoven does not exist. So he creates Beethoven, or he acts in place of Beethoven somehow and pretends to write these songs so that they will exist, right?
Okay.
But then the question is who originally wrote the music? Because the music came from itself, right? It's this closed loop, and there's no cause for the music as far as you can tell. And there can be like theories, like outside choices of like maybe some other person wrote Beethoven's music, but then someone like miscredited it to someone who doesn't exist, or like there's history lost, and in like the present time they tried to figure out who Beethoven was and got it wrong. And so this time traveler went back in time to where they thought history was correct, but it was wrong that this person never existed, and put Beethoven into the timeline where it would have existed anyways. Just not in the way that they expected. And so they became the new cause and made it into a closed loop. If they had decided, like they have two choices when they go back in time. It's like Beethoven doesn't exist. I have two choices. Do nothing and not mess with time, or pretend to be Beethoven and pretend to write these songs and publish them as Beethoven, right? Not choosing to do it still has a paradox effect. There's literally nothing they can do at this point. Because if they don't choose to do it, then it's like, well, then the music came from nowhere, and he didn't even put it back in himself. He didn't put it back into time himself. So then where did the music come from in the first place? And so then, that creates its own paradox in a way of not choosing to, pretend to be Beethoven. And so I feel like some of these could be explained with like shapes, like I said, the figure eight, like infinity shape. Yank, be quiet. I'm recording. Shush. Or like with this Beethoven one, it could have like a starting, almost like a tangent line coming into a circle and then a circle and like a closed loop, right? Sort of thing. Is sort of what I'm picturing. But I don't know if these really make sense or if they're accurate, and there's no way to test them anyways. But one other paradox that I thought of myself would be like, let's say, in a hypothetical thing that I thought of earlier, like your name is Daniel, and you learned the exact time that your parents came up with that name. It was like right as you were being born or after you were being born. It's like, what should we name him? And they come up with Daniel. right? So you're born and you hear the story and you decide to play a prank on yourself and make a paradox for some dumb reason. You go back in time to before they ever came up with a name and tell them, hey, I'm your son from the future. I traveled back in time. Name me Daniel. And then they, for some reason, listen to this random guy that claims to be their son. And they name their kid Daniel based off this person's suggestion and not them deciding it on their own. And so that becomes the new story, but the effect is still the same. And so it's like it sort of creates a paradox in a way, because maybe in this new timeline where you suggest it, you grow up and you can have access to time travel, but you decide to double prank yourself and you don't go back in time and suggest that name. And then they named you how it was originally said, is they just came up with the name Daniel, on their own right before you were born. And so it creates a second sort of paradox type thing of you choosing not to time travel, not to do anything, not to create a paradox in itself creates a paradox, right? And it's almost like a double paradox. There was an original cause, and you went back and messed with that cause and changed the reason, but the effect was still the same for the most part. And I kind of wonder if technically those paradoxes aren't impossible, and if they're actually just like a loop, or like it's just a cycle, like the grandfather paradox. It just cycles between the two options of you being dead or you being alive if you killed your grandfather or not. What are your thoughts? Because I want to hear your thoughts, because I think this is somewhat ridiculous, but also kind of makes sense in my own head.
Okay, so all of the time travel paradoxes, they're pretty much fall into two categories of just, they're either super recursive, like the ones that you're talking about, or they branch. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that, you go into another alternate timeline. Ooh. And that's stupid. Because if you, let's see, an alternate timeline could only exist from a choice that you made. So coming outside of the natural alignment of the universes being made does not create more universes to be made. Do you follow me?
I also feel like decisions that people make, they aren't like, it's not like there's a 50-50 chance that you'll make a decision. There's a 100% chance you'll choose one, but before you make it, you have no idea, and it's basically 50-50 yes or no to a question, or who knows, right? But because of our past experiences and how we are and what we've learned and everything, we're for sure going to choose one of them. There's not like a chance where for some reason we choose the other, and then for some reason time is like, you know what? Because of this one person making this one decision about answering yes on this math test, there's an alternate timeline now. We're going to branch off from this. Unless like the whole theory is it branches off every single second and some random possibilities of like a meteor for some reason glitching out and traveling 5 degrees to the right and hitting Earth could have a completely different effect, because science and how the universe works is it follows laws,
right?
And chemistry and all of those things, right? And so the branching off and time travel and all of that doesn't really make sense in that way. And so it's really interesting to think about time travel then, because I mean, if it is possible, which I don't think it is, then if you can create one of these paradoxes, then time will basically break itself, because it doesn't have a branching off thing, because that doesn't really logically make sense. It can make sense in a fictional story because it's very handy to have, but in actual logic with how things work and how decisions are made, it doesn't make sense.
Right. It's just like trying to say, hey, you know how the Earth has gravity? Well, what if we took that gravity away? Mm-hmm. Could I still jump?
And also like creating like these scenarios, like if a surface has zero friction, this object will never stop moving, right?
Right.
And that's just not possible because of how science and everything works. The laws are consistent throughout everything, and that's why I feel like zero is impossible. Zero is not a real thing. Zero is fictional. And I have made up my mind that zero is not real.
This is
That's
why I
right.
don't
Yeah,
work in the theoretical.
You had no objections to my zero is not real.
Theoretical stuff gives me a headache. Where are my explosives?
Theoretical stuff gives me a headache too, but it's so much fun to think about.
I'm just
There's
gonna
no
blow
such
them
thing
all
as the
up.
number 0. All you can do is get close to it. For all
And you-
practical purposes, we just say 0.
It's like, well, I mean, what would you say about space? Like, there's 0 atoms in space, and it's like, well, if there's 0 atoms in space, then the molecule next to it will get sucked into that vacuum, right? And so if you have a 0 way out deep in space, then technically molecules are getting sucked into a vacuum next to it, which then gets sucked into a vacuum next to it, and will eventually fill in everything. There's probably a little bit, some molecule everywhere in space, and and I feel like that's for the most part true. Maybe not. I don't know. I have
That's
no way
not
to
what
test
happens.
it. Okay, maybe not.
Every now and then, one particle of positive matter and one particle of negative matter gets spawned in the universe. So they just fluctuate in and out for a fraction of a second. So they go in and out, in and out. So it's always balanced. There's always something taken, something added.
Mm-hmm.
So that there's not nothing in space. It's always moving like a waterbed.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
don't
also,
know why
I have
I
a
thought of
feeling
that,
that-
as the first immediate form of water, but I'll go with that.
I have seen like examples of sort of how gravity works. Like if you have a blanket, stretched out, put something heavier down, and it'll make a dent and pull things in towards it. And the more mass there is, the more it will pull towards itself. And that
Right.
kind of makes sense in a third-dimensional way.
I think that's Einstein.
What?
I don't know. What?
I think
are you-
Einstein came
what?
up with that.
We didn't even mention a single person. We're talking about a way to explain gravity.
Yeah.
Einstein came up with the blanket idea.
When Einstein invented blankets. But that's a way to explain it, and maybe in that sense, like gravity could be strong enough to keep, atoms from getting sucked into the vacuum of space and filling everything equally. Because that's what things want to do with a vacuum, is they want to fill that vacuum when they can. Or at least that's how it works on Earth. I don't know if that's also affected by gravity, probably partially.
Yeah, that's about right.
So maybe that's how it is. And so gravity is either creates vacuums or fills vacuums or anything like that. So who knows? But I still feel like out in space there is like very little, not necessarily oxygen, but I feel like there's like some gases out in space. It's just so little that and it's definitely not breathable, that it's mostly a vacuum. Because even a vacuum that we can create by just getting a vacuum and sucking all the air out of the box won't make it a complete vacuum, right? There's still technically air in there. It's just very, very, very little.
Right.
And so that's why I feel like 0 and nothing doesn't exist. For the most part.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
How long
Yeah.
have we been recording? Let me check.
Just over an hour.
13 minutes. Probably just about an hour. We could go on a slight side note how I was talking about 0 not existing, because
more
purple
paradoxes?
does... Do we have more paradoxes?
Yes.
I was going to talk about how purple doesn't exist.
You're purple. Okay.
I'm fading away. I don't exist anymore.
Okay, so there are several paradoxes, and I have here pulled up my list of paradoxes, Wikipedia. So
This episode is going to be titled Josh Rambles the whole time.
Pretty much.
Hunter hasn't said a whole
Scamble.
lot.
This
Mike has said more than Hunter, I think.
this
That's
isn't
only
really
'cause
a
we got to
series,
topic I like.
and it's a topic I don't know that much about.
Mike, I want to hear some paradoxes that you know of, because you know paradoxes, and I only know the ones that I recently watched in videos.
Heck, your
Okay.
channel is pretty much a paradox.
So, did you know that looking at a green apple can tell you that all ravens are black?
How's that?
Please explain.
Okay, so if you look at a raven, right, it's black.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you say, well, what if all ravens are black? Yeah, I've never seen a white raven. So then you go all around looking around, trying to find a white raven and you don't find one. So all you make the assumption all ravens are black.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at an apple that's green, it's not black, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Obviously.
it's not a raven because all ravens are black.
That's kind of just like everything is either a potato or not a potato.
Kind of.
It's true, but it doesn't make sense and it's very vague.
But the way that it's laid out is that if I look at a green apple, that gives me new information that all ravens are black. And that's not true. Because what if I don't know what a raven is? How am I supposed to gain new information without knowing about a specific topic?
Well, that kind of sounds to me almost like how like a program would work, like for, recognizing shapes and things. It's like, or recognizing what things are. Because if you look at a green apple, then you could say, oh, maybe ravens can be green. But then you see, oh, wait, but this isn't a raven. So that means that some things can be green that aren't ravens, but ravens so far have not been green.
And along that same
That didn't make much sense.
along
Yours didn't
that
make any
same
sense.
paradoxical thing with the ravens, you could theoretically look at the green apple and say, okay, all apples are green, but that's not true. There are red apples. Right?
That's a completely different topic. That's not what we're talking about.
No, it's talking. What does he say?
I kind of understand what you're saying, Micah, but
I want to
Noah,
blow
we're
up
recording a
all
podcast.
I want to blow up all paradoxes. Blow them up, end them.
That's not possible because they're not there.
We're
But you can
recording
do
a podcast where they're not going to be able to hear you, and I'm not going to synchronize.
Just blow up all podcasts. Not
Alright,
here we go.
podcasts.
Next.
Paradoxes.
Bye, Noah. Alright, then there's the... Okay.
So go ahead.
Okay, then there is the Catch-22, which is one of my favorites. So,
I feel like I've heard something like that.
I've heard the name.
Time ago
Oh,
in
yes.
a book about some guy in a war or something. I don't remember all the details. But there was a guy who wanted to get out of war. He did not want to be in war anymore. And the only way to do that was to follow the rules. So, Catch-22 says that the only way that you can get out of war is if you are claimed insane. Right.
Uh-huh.
So this guy said, all right, I am an insane person, so I can get out of the war, right? And the paradox here is that if you're an insane person, you do not care about your life, so you can go and fly in the planes in the war anyway. So there's really no way out of getting out of the war.
Yeah, but if
One-
you're an
Because
insane
if
person,
you're insane, those people just load you up in a plane and make you blow up stuff.
well,
But if you're not
Well-
insane, then you got to fight in the war.
How I've heard the Catch-22 used is in a Bo Burnham, one of his songs called "I Can't Handle This Right Now." It was one of the last songs he ever wrote and performed, which you can watch. You can look it up on YouTube and you can watch it. It is really amazing. But one of the things he says, and it's sort of a joke, is I want to go to the gym because I'm self-conscious about my body, but I'm self-conscious about my. Or no, I can't go to the gym because he's self-conscious about his body, because he doesn't want other people at the gym seeing that he's wimpy. But the only way to not be wimpy is to go to the gym, right?
Right.
So the reason he's self-conscious about his body is because he can't go to the gym. But he can't go to the gym because he's self-conscious about his body. Is basically what he said. And it's sort of an interesting thing to think about. It's almost like the opposite of the grandfather paradox. It's not this loop that you create. It's a loop you can't even get to. It's a circle of things where you can't even get to that point because it doesn't exist. It's not possible to get in that loop. Or technically, in this case with the gym, it is possible, but based on everything, it's not possible because it contradicts itself somehow. I can't explain it very well. I cannot I have all these ideas in my head of how to explain paradoxes and make them logical, but they only work in my own head. And I'm starting to think that either they aren't logical, and my brain makes them logical, or if they even are logical, my brain is not able to explain them. And the secret to the universe will be lost because I am unable to talk proper.
Yep.
Hunter, do you have a paradox? Come up with a paradox right now. I have created my own paradox. Have you created your own paradox?
I have, but I forgot.
I have.
Should've
It's
written it
called
down.
blowing up all the paradoxes.
But if you blow up all the paradoxes,
There won't be any left.
then the paradoxes will blow up you, which means you can't blow up the paradoxes. That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. Let's see.
That's not a paradox, Hunter. Mike, so you said you have one, but you can't remember it.
Yeah, I can't remember mine.
I'm pretty sure
Go ahead.
I'm going to briefly explain mine. My paradox, which I've explained to you, is like if mirrors are a portal to another world that's in every way the exact same as ours, and there's another person just like you on the other side that is thinking everything exactly the same as you, and just mirrored. And so every time you put your hand up to the mirror, you would be able to go through that portal of the mirror if the person on the other side wasn't also putting their hand up in the exact same spot, putting the same amount of pressure on. So no matter what you do, you can't force your way through because they're forcing the same amount back, right?
I've heard this before.
And so I haven't told you about it.
No, you have
This
not.
paradox. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. On a car ride to Noah's when we were going to do like a sleepover video game thing.
I heard
I
it
remember.
before that.
You were there.
Like, one of my cousins had the exact same idea.
Okay, I guess it's not original, but still, I thought of it on my own with no external ideas. And so it's sort of fun to try to think of different ways that you could try to get through this portal. And no matter what you do, you can always argue against it. Like, well, they would be thinking the same thing, or they would do the exact same thing, and so that wouldn't work.
Oh, I remember mine.
Oh, you do? Cool.
Yes. All right. So you know how you can do the two mirrors and you can look into infinity thing?
Yes.
So I thought, what if we encase the mirrors so we get out all we make a vacuum so we get out all of the unnecessary atoms and stuff, so that would stop this. So we get
I have
one
thought of
mirror
something similar.
and one-way mirror,
Mm-hmm.
like they have in TV shows where the cops are like, "Who did it?" and nobody can see them. And so we get a laser and we shoot the laser through the one-way mirror so that it bounces to infinity, right? But because there's no stuff in it so that the atoms can collide with the laser will just keep going on forever in there. So, does that mean we can make ourselves a box that's just full of laser?
The issue that I see with that, I've thought of literally the exact same thing, and I also thought of using it in a different way. But the issue with that is a two-way mirror. It lets light through because that's the only way you can see what's on the other side. So over time, light would slowly go through, and there would be nothing to put light back in unless you had the laser on forever. The laser would bounce back and forth for a long time, but eventually it would fade as part of the laser would reflect and part of the laser would come through the one-way mirror so that you could see it, right?
Yeah, but I'm
Which is
using
why
theoretical
that doesn't
terms,
work.
so perfect mirrors and such. Because mirrors, they eat light too. And that's why mirrors are
But
green.
even a one-way mirror, it wouldn't work with a one-way mirror. With a perfect two mirrors that aren't one-way, you wouldn't be able to see what's happening unless you could like go into Minecraft spectator mode and look in there.
Right,
somehow.
that's why it's like Schrodinger's box.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know, is it all just laser in here? You'll never know
Is
unless
the
you
cat
open the
dead?
box.
Is the cat dead? Is the cat alive? Is the cat just a reflection of itself in a mirror infinitely going for forever? And one thought I had with this, and I thought of this literally like the other day, Micah. The exact same thing, sucking all the air out in a vacuum so there's no resistance for the light and it can reflect infinitely and never get absorbed by anything. And my thought was, what if like you could use that to store images somehow if you like put like a piece of paper in there and then you cast the reflection with the light, and if you pull it back down, would like eventually it would maybe like fade into the background of the mirrors, but there's a slight delay between, like, very very slight of the speed of light delay of when the mirror reflects the thing and it going off and reflecting into the background of infinite mirrors, and then when it's just the mirrors on their own. And so if you were to zoom in far enough with like a telescope or microscope, would you be able to see a reflection from a long time ago in a tiny little, infinite reflection that the mirrors created? Is that possible? In a very specific, perfect scenario, would that be possible?
Okay.
And it would be kind of interesting to think about that, of like using that to store information just using mirrors. Although it's probably not possible because, air and light getting absorbed and it getting just so small to the point where you probably wouldn't be able to see it even with a microscope. Especially since if you use a microscope, that will absorb the light into your eye and it'll literally disappear the first time you try to look at it. But it's still, the infinite mirrors things is such an interesting thing. And I think I may have sent it a while ago. It was a video from Rhett and Link from like years and years and years ago. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It was called Rhett and Link Deep Thoughts, which is basically this podcast so far. Or, no, I Am a Thoughtful Guy. From how long ago? 7 years ago.
That's a long
And
time.
It's a fairly catchy song. I like listening to it. And I'll send it here. And I'll try it. This is probably like the only thing we'll actually have linked. Because everything we've talked about so far. And also the Vsauce thing. Which I'm going to go ahead and find that and post it. So that I can find it later when I'm uploading the video. Let's see. Where is it?
Well, we could probably make a Paradoxes part 2, since this is getting pretty long. So
Well, we're just going to end it. I don't think we'll talk about it.
we
in
could
another
probably
podcast.
go for one more, I think.
Another topic?
No, just one more paradox.
Oh, okay.
We've been recording
is-
for an hour and a half.
The potato paradox.
I saw that video from Vsauce, but I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, so the basis of what it is that you have a potato,
Mm-hmm.
and
No, just put in the Discord. Your mom's a paradox.
oh, okay. So you get 100 pounds of potatoes, right? So you have you got 100 pounds of potatoes, and in here, 99% of the weight is water.
Okay.
So if we dehydrate the potatoes till they're only 98% water, then how much do they weigh now?
Wait, so we're taking potatoes that are like 99% water and we're taking each one down to 98%?
That's right.
Well, if it's 98% water,
So how much do they altogether weigh?
Overall, wouldn't that just be a 1% loss in weight?
and water,
In water, yeah.
it depends on how much water weighs, which I know there's a certain weight, and depending on the weight of the potato, you would, well, what else would be in the potato and how much does that weigh? I don't know. Explain it, Micah.
The potatoes would then weigh 50 pounds.
What?
Through math and stuff, it'll eventually weigh 50
Okay.
pounds. That's how all the paradoxes work, is you have this weird scenario that seems like there's a logical answer, and then all of a sudden it's some insane weird answer, and they explain it with math.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So imagine it like this. So you have like a 100 by 100 block,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and we have 1% is a potato, and all of the other ones is water. So that's 99 water, right?
Uh-huh.
So what we're really doing is we're taking 1% of the water, but that basically doubles the amount of potato in the whole percentage. So it's basically now 2 potatoes out of 100. And when we do that, because the potatoes are a constant, they didn't change, that means that we only have 50% of what we originally had comparatively. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Maybe.
Okay, let me send you a picture so that will probably help a little bit.
I do feel like I remember watching this video a long time ago, but I don't remember.
So the potato ratio would then be 2 instead of just one potato, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of 1 to 99, it's 2 to 98,
Okay.
which chops the amount of water by half.
Well, the thing about with the water is if you take 1%, that's one of those blocks taken away, which means that the fraction would be a lot different. If you were to take 2% of the water away, it would make a little bit more sense, I think. Or maybe it wouldn't.
A fraction also to go with it, so that it can be equally displayed as well.
I'm also going to find, I know Vsauce has
a video on it.
Yeah, which I was going to watch at some point, and I'm going to go ahead and post that here, and I will remember to link that later, and I'll explain it to everyone, and I will understand it later. Alright, so let's see. 1 plus 98 of 100ths x, or whatever, equals, or let's just call that potato, equals potato. And then 1 equals 1/50th potato. I don't think that helps much. I think, alright, so the first part of it is how much does the potato weigh originally?
Okay, so altogether, it weighs 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
99% of that
potato
is water. We're now changing that percentage to 98. And then the result is that we are taking the potatoes now weigh 50% because of the potato to water ratio going down.
I need a potato cannon. Give me the potato cannon.
It's all in the language, right? It's all in the way that it's said.
Yeah. So let's see, if you have
because
99%...
the non-water potato part doubled.
But it didn't technically double. It's just in comparison in fractions and in ratios, it has doubled.
That's doubling.
But I mean, if you have like, let's go with a simpler thing to sort of understand. With 4 separate fourths, 3/4 water, 1/4 potato. If you take away 1/4, you now have 2/4 just water left, which is an altogether it's a third. So it's going to be 1/3 potato and 2/3 water.
I mean, even
Right.
if we had it to where it was 99.999% and we changed it to 99.998, we'd still be halving the entire weight of the potato because of the ratio is still being doubled.
The ratio at the start with my 1/4 example is it's 1 to 4, and then it ends up going to 1 to 3.
I don't
Right.
think you understand.
I don't think I do. I remember watching this, and I remember they explained it in a way that I could understand, I think, but
So
I can't remember.
instead of taking away from water, pretend like it's adding one more potato and then subtracting from the ratio of potato to water. So if we have 1 to 99, then it would be 2 to 49. Or 1 to 49 because of
Okay.
ratioing.
Math.
Maths.
I still don't understand the process of that. I somewhat understand how you could get there, but I need to watch the video to
Yeah,
understand.
just watch the video. They'll explain it much easier.
I think with paradoxes, it is so hard to explain, which is why we just should leave it to Vsauce.
I just don't have a seminar prepared for this topic, so
Exactly.
I'm just
I
explaining
know there's
off the top of
probably-
my head.
There could be people watching who's like, I understand how it works, and I could sort of understand what he's saying too, because I understand how it works anyways.
Because you
It's
guys
like,
have
how do these
prep
people
time.
not understand? Yes, exactly. If you explain it really well, and like even if you also have better visuals than 2 pictures, which just show what we've already heard but we don't understand, then with better visuals it makes a little more sense, which Vsauce is very good with.
Right.
Well, I think that should be the end of the podcast because we've been recording for an hour and 35 minutes, which is probably closer to an hour and either 25 or an hour and 30 minutes based on how long it took us to synchronize and everything.
Yep.
So,
You took
hopefully
too
you
long.
enjoyed.
You talk too much.
I talked a lot.
You did talk a
I
lot.
wa- The thing is I would love to talk this much and talk about these things on my own channel, but
Then you don't
I
have
no one
anybody to talk to.
I don't have anybody to talk to. Plus, then I would feel like, wow, I rambled on for an hour and a half. How am I going to cut this down to something watchable? But since it's a podcast, it doesn't matter.
Yay!
Yay!
Woohoo.
And also, it's a little more interesting just because you guys are there. And
I am pretty interested.
I
also
make
stuff.
everything
because
interesting.
you can't just do a podcast on your own. Otherwise, it's not a podcast.
It's just you
Yeah,
talking.
then it's just you talking to yourself.
And that's kind of
That's weird.
sad.
Yes. Does that even have a name on YouTube and in videos?
It's called
Yes,
pathetic.
it's called loneliness.
Loneliness. Well, this has been the slightly less lonely podcast. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? I'm not good at outros, so Spanish chair, catch you later, and explosions. Right, Hunter?
Exactly.
Come back when we might have Noah.